Hey Everfam, so today I'm just going to jump right into this video. This video is not for everyone. Disclaimer, I am being as open as possible. I am being descriptive. I am being, it's going to be graphic. It's going to be TMI. So if this video does not apply to you, you can just click off. But if this video does apply to you, I wanted to make it as honest as I could because this is a video that would have helped me while I went through it, and I really hope this video helps you if you're going through something similar. So today I want to be talking to you guys about what a miscarriage really looks like. And obviously I understand that it's different in every circumstance. However, when I went through my last miscarriage, I had zero idea what I was walking into. And as crazy as this video idea and concept may seem to be making, it's actually the first thing I searched for. So while I was going through it, I didn't know anyone at the time who had miscarried at the same gestational age as I did, and that I was close enough to and willing to talk to. And I was 7,000 miles away from home. It was in the middle of the night. It was crazy, and I had no one to help me through it that knew what it was like. So I had no advice. I had no no insight to what was going to go down, what was going to happen. So the first thing I actually did was I YouTube searched what a miscarriage really looks like. And so if this is how you found that video, I am sorry. I am hurting with you. I'm healing with you. I am praying for you. And we're going to get through this together. And I want to explain to you guys what to expect. This is essentially for someone who is either scared that they might miscarry, or they've already been diagnosed with a miscarriage and have decided to go the natural route and miscarry at home, which is what I did. So I'm just going to jump right into it and explain how my miscarriage went and what it looked like. The number one question I kept asking anyone and everyone who would listen is, what does it look like? Will I know if I have miscarried? And the answer is yes. And I kept saying, okay, but people say they'll know, but will I know? And the answer is still yes. If you're thinking what if they just knew and I won't know? You will know when you miscarry. Obviously depending on what gestational age you were. I had a miscarriage at 12 weeks 2 days. The baby had only made it till 9 weeks of gestational age, so I had a 9-week miscarriage. And so obviously this video only applies to roughly the same gestational age, a little bit over, a little bit under. However, I also had a miscarriage at about 5 to 6 weeks. This was a previous miscarriage, and that also just passed like a normal cycle. So that's kind of how that one looked. However, the one where I was 9 weeks happened so much differently, and I don't know if that was proper grammar. It happened so differently than the other miscarriage, and I honestly had no idea what to expect. So here it goes. I was in Hawaii. We had gone for a 6-week vacation out there. And obviously, since I didn't have a healthcare practitioner, I was desperate to find someone to give me an ultrasound to see baby, because it had been a while. We had been out there for 6 weeks, and I wanted to see my baby. And I remember one day I went to the washroom, and there was a little bit of a little pink tint when I wiped that looked like blood in my urine. And it wasn't even enough to change the color in the bowl, nothing. However, the next time I went, it was gone. And I was like, oh, okay, I don't know what that was, but it's all right. And the next day, the same thing. I wiped, and there was a little bit of pink tint on the paper and nothing in the bowl. And I figured, okay, that's kind of weird, but it went away. The next time I went to the bathroom, it wasn't there. So I thought nothing of it. However, I know it sounds really silly. Don't come at me. I really wanted to see baby, so I knew I had coverage, and I wanted to make sure. So I kind of overplayed it and went to the hospital. And I just said I had some blood in my urine. I want to see if baby's okay. And obviously they said, let's get an ultrasound on you and let's see. And this is kind of where the process started. Obviously I was diagnosed with a miscarriage at that same ultrasound, I had no symptoms going in. I know I say, oh, I had pink tint in my blood. Honestly, it was so little. It wasn't even anything. And it was only once a day. And the rest of the times I went, there was nothing. So honestly, that was not an indicator to me that I had a missed miscarriage. And so this video is going to apply to women who have had a missed miscarriage, or are scared. This one's for you. So I was diagnosed with that, and I was told that baby had passed away 3 weeks ago. And I had decided to take the natural route of letting baby pass instead of taking the medication. So if you do decide to take the medication, it is 10 times harder. It's more painful. You bleed more. I'm a heavy bleeder in general, so I just knew I wanted to do this naturally. I did not want to have the D&C yet because I did want to not preserve, but keep my baby after. I didn't want... I still wanted to take a piece of them home with me in some sort of way. So I decided to take the natural route and just let nature take its course. And so that was on a Monday, I believe that happened. And Thursday was the day I miscarried. So Wednesday, I think Tuesday and Wednesday, I actually started to bleed more. So enough to need a liner when I went out. And I knew obviously this is the process taking its course. And so one thing I did not know about a miscarriage at my gestational age of 9 weeks was that you will contract. Your contractions will, until they are on top of each other, similar to an actual labor, and you will physically labor the baby out. So you will have to dilate, you will have to contract, your contractions will be on top of each other, and you will have to push. The exact same way you have a baby at the hospital, like at full term. So I didn't know this. So I was really paranoid that I wouldn't know when I would miscarry, so I tried to stay home for the next couple, or for that week, for those 4 days, and it was a lot of paranoia, but I want to give you guys some relief in saying that if you are at the similar gestational age, you will know. You will 100% know. And so yeah, I'm going to jump into when it all happened. It was Thursday night, I believe. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and my contractions were just getting so bad. I do have a daughter, so I didn't know what the contractions felt like. Obviously, it's just a stomach tightening, very, very uncomfortable, painful, and they were getting so bad, and they were getting on top of each other, and I just decided I'm not going to be able to sleep like this, so I'm not going to leave this washroom until it happens, because I couldn't fall asleep, and I needed to know that it was all going to happen. I wanted it over with. And so I went to the washroom and I just sat there. And I do recommend, if you want to catch baby essentially for proper burial, or whatever it may be, if you don't want to make the decision to flush, I do recommend putting a strainer in the bowl when it all happens. That way it catches it. You don't have to go searching for it. It won't have to slide in, and you will find baby. One thing I was told, and I did search for, I was really scared that I wouldn't know out of everything coming out what would be baby, because obviously baby's going to be inside of a sac, it's going to be coated in blood. Essentially, I had no idea what I was gonna see, I didn't want to discard the wrong tissue, anything. I wanted to keep baby, and that's that. And I was told and reassured that out of everything that will pass through, baby, majority of the time, if not all of the time, comes first. So out of all the tissue you're going to pass, out of all the blood clots, the first one should be the biggest, and well, I would say at least 99%, don't quote me on this, but I was told it will come first. And so obviously after about an hour of contracting, the contractions started to go on top of each other, and I didn't feel the need to push, but I wanted to because it hurt so bad and I wanted relief, so I started to push. And obviously it took another half an hour of pushing before anything happened, and during this entire time I was bleeding. So it was like a steady stream of blood, as if I was peeing. I was not. So for those 30 minutes of pushing, I was bleeding. I am a heavy bleeder. I did lose half my blood when I labored with my daughter, so I knew I had to monitor this. I had Gatorade nearby, I had my husband nearby, I had cold cloths on me. We were figuring this out together. And so when time came and I was pushing and I finally felt something come through. And as gross as it may sound, if you're going through this, you want to know all the details. It felt really slimy. It was passing through and it got stuck. So I kept pushing and pushing and it wouldn't go through. It was stuck. So half of it was out, half of it was in. I did try to get something to pull on it a little bit to see if it would come. Eventually, with enough pushing, it came out. The biggest part of the clot, I did put that aside. I did keep it for later. And after that, I remember thinking, this is done. That happened. It's done. It's over. And unfortunately, that's not the case. So I continued to pass tissue and blood clots for another little while there, actually. It's insane how much tissue comes out of you. I will never again wonder why people show so early at 9 weeks sometimes, because the amount, like, even though baby may have only been this big, the amount of tissue altogether was like a pile of this, like this, altogether. It was like a lot of tissue coming out. And that's only what I saw. I did have to have a D&C. I'm getting to that though. So, let me just get comfortable. So, I thought that was it. I remember I needed to lay down. I was in so much pain from laboring on that toilet. I was bawling my eyes out. I was scared. I was bleeding. I would not stop bleeding. It was a constant stream. I lay down on the ground. My husband set out towels for me. I was soaking a pad every couple minutes. And so that's when I made the decision, I need to call the hospital. And so we called the ambulance. And since I was a heavy bleeder, that was what was terrifying me. I didn't want to lose too much blood. And I wanted to make sure it would stop. So we called the ambulance. They had to carry me down, and I ended up losing more. Right before the ambulance got there was when I passed another blood clot. So aside from the sac and everything, the baby came in. I thought that was it. But right before they arrived, I remember feeling like something else was coming out of me, and that's when I became terrified. I was like, what else is coming out of me? What is happening? I had no idea what was going on, and all of a sudden, it just came out of me. It just like passed its way through. I didn't have to push. It fell out, and it was another blood clot, a couple inches. And I was like, what is happening? I thought this was over. Like, is this part baby? Is this part baby? I had no idea. But obviously after I was told that majority of the time it is the first clot, so I'm glad I kept all of it just in case. I did keep the first one aside so I would remember which one it was. But yes, so that's when I realized that you can pass more than one clot and lots of tissue will come out of you. And so we made it to the hospital. They were monitoring everything. I was soaking the bed. I soaked through the towel I had on. I soaked through the blanket they put on me. I soaked through the pads they laid, the bed pads, the bed sheets, everything. I soaked them. I was bleeding so bad. And I remember saying, like, I gotta go to the bathroom. Like, can you get me, like, maternity diaper that you guys have here at the hospital? Like, I need something because this pad, everything, I'm soaked. Like, I was soaked from the waist down in blood. And I remember going to the washroom, and once again, this tissue, once baby has passed, will just go right through you. It will just continue to come out. And so while I was going to the bathroom, I decided, once you like start to pee, obviously, it was a lot more than pee coming out. It was like a gush of more blood. And I was scared because while I was just gushing blood, I felt more tissue pass. And when I say more tissue, there was a clump this big that came out. I didn't have to push. It like finds its way through. I was so scared. Obviously at that time I didn't know which part was baby or not. I didn't want to flush in the hospital. I didn't know how to get it. It had already gone all the way down. The entire bowl was already filled up with blood. I called the nurse. I was bawling my eyes out. She reassured me that she doesn't think it would be it. She reassured me that she's pretty sure that if I had already passed the baby at home, it would be there. And as I stood up and she helped wipe me down because I was covered in blood, more tissue came out. She obviously took it to sample, and I went back and laid in the bed, and more tissue continued to come out, and it just sat in the maternity underwear I was wearing until they could come and take it and sample it. And when I say it was a lot, I mean it was a lot. I was not expecting that. I had no idea how much actually is inside of you when you're pregnant, how much tissue is protecting the baby, how much you hold, anything. And so that part was something I definitely wish I would have known. It was really scary not knowing what was coming out of me, how much more I was going to lose, like what else was falling out of me. If it was crazy. And obviously, considering I couldn't stop bleeding, and they did an ultrasound and they determined that there was even still more tissue in my uterus and that it wasn't passing. They obviously decided that I needed a D&C, and so a D&C is also a method you can take instead of taking this natural route of passing baby, where essentially they'll clean you out with a vacuum tool and will clean out all the tissue and blood and everything. And obviously that is a route that some women decide to go, and some women physically have to go that route. And I just decided if I had the option, I did not want to do that, because that option does not allow you to take baby home at the end of the day. And that was something that was of value to me, and I really wanted to do that. It was important. So that's why I decided to go the natural route if I was allowed, and I was. So I was scheduled for a D&C, and I went in for my D&C. I was put under anesthetic. I woke up a couple hours after. Everything was cleaned out. The tissue was cleaned out. I stopped bleeding. I was really tired, really loopy. I pretty much slept the rest of the entire day and that night. I slept so much, and they said obviously that's recommended. And by the next day, I was already feeling myself. I was able to walk around. Obviously, you can't take it hard, but I was feeling okay enough to do that. And so the healing process from the D&C is actually not as bad as I thought it was. And so that was also a positive. That it wasn't a crazy large surgery. It was considered a minor surgery, but it was an emergency surgery. So it was something that needed to happen, because if you do not properly clean everything out, you can actually get infected, and women have passed away from not properly passing everything in a miscarriage. And so that is my miscarriage story. I was able to bring baby home in a specimen jar. My landlord in Hawaii was a doctor, so that was great. He had specimen jars that had liquid in it that would preserve anything was put inside, and the airport didn't even notice, so I didn't have to explain it to them. I was able to bring baby home, and we were able to have a proper burial here for baby. And I know you're wondering, side note, what everything looked like. I don't really want to include images. I might include some black and whites of some sizes of what you'll see. But essentially, the first clot, once I got back home the next day, I wanted to look for baby. I took the first clot, and I just started to, I used like a plastic spoon or butter knife, and I just tried to scrape away some of the blood so I can kind of see the inside of the sac and what it looked like. And right when I did that, at the very end, I could see fingers, and I could see, their head. And I will include a cropped black and white to show you, so you won't just pass a baby and say, oh, there's a baby. You'll pass a clot, and in the clot you'll have to search for baby. So the reason I recommend wiping it down a bit to see if you can tell where the baby is so you don't cut it in the middle, open it up, and accidentally you want to keep baby intact for a proper burial. And so, sorry if I'm looking down or looking around a lot. Yeah, so I had already heard previously from women that they actually had to search for the baby inside the sac, open it up, and they found them. And long story short, that's what I did. I opened it up, I found them, and I was able to take them out. And at 9 weeks, I was able to count their fingers and toes. And I was able to see their spine. I was able to see everything. And I think that part to me was crazy. I didn't expect to see what I saw, even though I know it's a baby from the minute of conception. Like, it's crazy how developed they are at 9 weeks already. And so yeah, I have been healing really, really well. It's been really hard but I'm really proud of myself. I still think about them all the time. I visit them all the time at their burial. It is hard, it is scary, and I don't want you guys to feel alone, and that's why this video is so long, but this video has a lot of information. This video tells you guys exactly what I went through, because when I went through it, that's what I wanted to know. This is what I wanted to know. This is the video I wish existed when I had my miscarriage. And so I really hope this is informational for you guys. I really hope that I answered some of your questions or just gave you guys relief in any way, shape, or form of what to expect and what a miscarriage actually looks like and consists of.